Hi, my name is Jack. I'm the pool service manager here at Vande Landscaping. Today we're going to be going over a little bit about the pool equipment and how everything works and how to troubleshoot issues and that kind of stuff. So, if you have a pool installed within the past few years with us, this is going to be pretty similar to how yours works or looks. The chlorinator, you may have a chlorinator, otherwise you may have a chlorine feeder where you have to put the pucks of chlorine in. If you do have one of those, I'm sure you already know about it because you're going to have to buy the pucks of chlorine. Basically, how everything works around here, we have our plumbing. The plumbing comes up from the pool and then it goes right into the pump. On most pools, you just have these two pipes coming in. So on a lot of them, we'll mark it with red tape. That's going to be our skimmer. So that's the little box on the side of the pool where the water goes in and you empty that little bucket. This is going to be the main drains, which are the two drains on the bottom of the pool. We plumb them separately so that you can run them from just the mains or just the skimmer, depending on what you want to do. On this pool, we have an extra bathing shelf, so we have a separate intake. Most pools will not have that, so we'll just ignore that for now. Water comes in, goes into our pump right here. You may have a slightly different looking pump if it's not a brand new pool. This is what we install now. Pretty simple. You have a front box, then you have your control panel. On the control panel, the main two buttons you're going to be looking at are the stop or zoom. So the stop or zoom, that stops the pump. So whenever we stop the pump, that's when we're going to be doing something like if we're backwashing on the filter or if we need to clean this out. So if there is a bunch of gunk in this, you just open this up like that, take this out, kind of bang all that stuff out of there. Most of the time, this isn't going to be super dirty. The main season to be watching out for is when it's cottonwood season, especially if you live in an area with a lot of cottonwoods. The cottonwood will come in here and it'll just kind of block all the water from going in. So we clean that out. We'll start our pump back up again. You'll notice whenever you take that cover off, you'll notice some of the water drains out. That's completely normal. It's just draining out to the pool. Basically now, the pump is going to prime itself. So what that means is it's sucking the water back into it. As long as there's a little bit of water inside of the pump, it will prime itself and suck water by itself. The other button on our pump here is the quick clean. So basically what the quick clean does is it ramps the pump up to the maximum RPMs so that it's sucking the most water through. The application for quick clean would be when you're vacuuming your pool manually. Or if the pool suddenly it gets cloudy or it looks dirty, quick clean is going to make sure that it filters the water a little bit faster. So every time you stop and start your pump, it's going to prime for anywhere from 4 to 8 minutes depending on what your pump is programmed to. Basically, that's just running on max speed to get the water flowing again. The pump will, after it's priming, it'll ramp back down to its schedule. So if you have one of these variable speed pumps, basically we start with a higher RPM in the morning and then throughout the day it lowers down so that you don't hear it as much at night. You may notice when the RPM is going down that our heater over here shows low error codes. I will show you how to fix that. So back to our pump, water goes into the front, comes out of here and goes into our sand filter. So this is what's cleaning the water. In here is a bunch of sand, and basically it pumps the water through and all the dirt and everything gets caught in the sand. The main thing with the sand filter is every once in a while you're gonna have to backwash the sand filter. So the process for backwashing, you never touch this multi-port without stopping the pump. If you touch the sand or the multi-port before stopping the pump, it can break stuff inside. It's just a little bit more fragile than the rest of it. So if we notice, I'm not getting a lot of flow out of my jets, the heater is throwing error codes, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come over, we're going to look at this pressure gauge right here. So under normal operating conditions, we're usually anywhere from about 8 to 12 psi in there. As soon as we start to see that psi creep up towards like 18, or if it starts to go down towards 5, that's when we know it's time for a backwash. So I had just actually run a backwash in this pool, but I'm going to run another one just to show you the steps. So first step, we come back here, we're going to press that stop and zoom button on the pump. Wait until we don't hear it working anymore. Then we're going to go over here. It's going to be on filter because that's the mode that it's going to be on the most. That's what actually filters the water with the sand. So we'll push that down. And we'll spin this all the way back around to the backwash setting. Once we do that, make sure that our hose is all the way rolled out. And then we will press the stop resume button back on our pump to start the pump again. It will take a few seconds to start up. Now that we're backwashing, it'll take a few seconds, but you'll notice that this sight glass right here next to the pressure gauge, this is where you're going to see how dirty the water is. So what I tell people is I take 2 fingers, and if this was dirty, I wouldn't be able to see the crease between my fingers under here. You'll notice it'll either be white, cloudy, or maybe dark brown or green if there's some algae in the pool. As soon as you can start to see those fingers, we know that it's clean enough. We can stop the backwash, so we'll come back to the pump. We'll press the stop resume button. Now, there's still a little bit of dirty water up in this section, and we don't want to send that into our furnace, or heater, sorry. So we're going to take this back down, flip it over to rinse, and then now we're going to start the pump again. And basically this is just going to push all that dirty water out into the backwash hose instead of putting it into our heater. For the rinse cycle, you really only have to run it for a few seconds, 5-10 seconds, because it blasts all that dirty water out pretty quickly. So we've done that enough, so we'll stop our pump again. And then we'll come back to the multi-port, and I will push down, and I'll put it back onto our filter. So it's going to be on filter for 99% of the time that the pool is running. That is what actually filters the water. The other settings on here, waste, basically it just wastes the water, so it just pumps the water right out without cleaning the sand. That's if your pool is too full and you don't want to run a backwash on it. There's closed, which just closes everything that we never use. Backwash, which we just explained, cleans the filter. Recirculate, which basically it just takes the water right in from the pump and pumps it right into the heater. That's if something were to happen, this gets hit or something like that, this develops a crack. Then we can keep the water flowing without filtering the water. If that were to happen, just let us know. We can get replacements of these. So we're on filter, we're going to start our pump again. Now that we're all started on that, we're going to move on to our heater. Depending on if we installed your pool or not, it may look a little bit different. And if it is a different style heater, then the controls will be slightly different, but they operate mostly the same. Right here is our main button. So when that light is lit up on that power sign right there, that means that the heater's off. So basically, we'll turn this down. This mode is spa mode, so that unlocks our temperature from 94 degrees to 104 degrees. Just be warned, the higher you go, the more gas it's going to spend, and the gas bill is going to get very expensive. The bottom mode is what we use primarily. That's going to be our pool mode. Once it's lit up down there, that means that the heater's on. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to start running right away, because it needs to have demand. So our solid numbers right there, that's going to be what the pool temperature's at right now. When we touch this, it's going to show the flashing numbers. That's what we're going to be setting the pool to. So now it has demand because it's at 74 and it's set to 85. So you're going to hear the motor spin up inside, and it'll take a few seconds, and then it'll kick on and ignite. And you'll hear when it ignites because it'll sound like a large flame, and you can also feel the heat coming off of this. If you have a brand new pool and you're just starting to use your heater, you will notice that there's a bit of a chemically smell when it's starting to run. Basically, the factory just sprays, there's paint spray from the factory inside, and that just takes a few days to burn off. So now we can feel our furnace is working. We're all good, and that means the water is heating. The furnace will not run if there's no water flow. It automatically shuts itself off. It also will just heat to the temperature that it's set to, and then it automatically kicks off. So that's our heater. We'll come back and show an error code in just a minute on what to do if it's showing low, which means low flow. The last piece of our equipment is our saltwater chlorinator. This is what turns the salt in the pool into the chlorine that goes into the water. Basically, it strips the salt into the sodium and the chlorine and puts the chlorine gas into the water. How How we tell if this chlorinator is actually generating actively is you'll see lots of tiny little bubbles going through. And if I come over to my control panel over here, we have our on-off toggle switch. So that's what controls whether it's going to run at all or not. And then we have our increase and decrease buttons, and then we have our chlorine output. So right now it's set to 50%. This 100% scale is set to percentage of the day. So at 100%, it's going to be running 24/7, and at 50%, it's only going to run for 12 hours of the day. Most of our pools will settle into the 50% range to keep it on permanently, and it will keep your chlorine at a good level. If you have a smaller pool, you may notice that you have to go down to 25% because the chlorine level is a little bit high. Just take that test strip and make sure that it's in the level, and we're going to record a video explaining the test strips as well. And if the chlorine's a little bit low, then you can come here and you can just turn it up to maybe 75 for a day, and then the next day run another test strip. If your chlorine's back to normal, you can turn it back down to 50%. You may notice that you have to keep it a little bit higher or lower depending on your pool. Like on a bigger pool, it might settle into 75% being needed, and then like I said, a smaller pool, maybe 25%. The last option on here is Boost. Basically what that does is it kicks the salt chlorinator into overdrive, and it just generates as much chlorine as possible. If you're having a big party and you're having a lot of little kids, or just people are getting a lot of dirt and oils in your pool, during that day or the day after, it's probably a good idea to turn this on to SuperBoost, because your pool's going to need to catch up on that chlorine, because all those people being in it is going to eat up a lot of the chlorine. So it's hard to see, but there's lots of little gases going through there. That means that it's actively generating chlorine. So I'm going to purposely slow down the pump so that it actually shows the error code. So now we're seeing this LO, low. Basically what that means is it's low flow. There isn't enough water going through the heater to take all that heat out, and it risks damaging itself, so it just stops itself because it doesn't want to damage itself. Low flow will show up if your filter gets dirty, so a good thing to try right away when you see low is run a backwash right away. Basically, the filter gets clogged up with dirt and the water can't go through it as easily, and then there's not enough water flow for the heater. Otherwise, if you've run a backwash and it's still showing low flow, if it's like 9 at night or something, like later in the evening, the pump is running at its lowest speed, it may be that we need to reprogram the pump to run a little bit higher so that the heater actually runs. It is pretty simple. There is a manual online to adjust it, or just give us a call and I can come out and do it in about 5 minutes. Super easy to do. So we have this low flow. So now we'll come back and I'll reset the pump to be at its normal speed, because I turned it down so that it would show the low flow. And now we'll give it a minute. And it should go away on its own. Sometimes you may need to either flip the breaker for the heater on and off, or if you go on here and you turn it to that off mode, and then back to the pool mode. And there we go. Now the low flow error code is gone. So that's our pool equipment pad. Every single piece of it is it's pretty maintenance free, other than the backwashing and the cleaning out of the filter. Basket on the pump. But yeah, we'll move on to vacuuming our pool. So now we're gonna manually vacuum our pool. Basically, the manual vacuum works the same as a vacuum would in your house, except it's underwater. So like, as you can see, there's a few little things on the ground in the pool. What we do to vacuum is we take our hose and our vacuum and this little white piece. If you don't have a little white piece, as in maybe we didn't install your pool or it's an older pool, you can just stick this hose directly into the hole in the bottom of the skimmer. What this piece allows you to do is it basically sits on top of your skimmer basket, and the skimmer basket will catch all the stuff that you're vacuuming up instead of sending it to our pump. And it's a lot easier to clean this skimmer basket than it is the pump. So we'll take our non-spinny side of the hose. So there's the non-spinny side, and then we have the spinny side. So we'll take the non-spinny side and we'll hook it up to our white piece here. And then I'm just gonna set this right on top of the skimmer just for now, because we have to fill this hose up with water. Because if we stick this in before we fill the hose with water, it'll basically suck a bunch of air in, and then the pump will lose its prime, so it won't be sucking any water anymore, and it'll just have to reprime itself, which most of the time it will do on its own. It just takes a few minutes. And you'll notice that, hey, my vacuum won't work. Well, it's because it probably got some air in it, and it's just struggling to regain the prime. So we'll take our other end of the hose, and I'll go over to one of our jets. This is the easiest way to fill your hose. So you just hold it against the jet until water starts pouring out of the white piece. There we go. Now our hose is full. We'll come back over here, and we're gonna hook up the spinny side into our vacuum on the pole here. And now we're gonna take this and we're gonna put this in the water right away. You never want this to come out of the water once you're hooked up, because it sucks the air and it loses prime like we were talking about. So now that we got our hose full of water, we got our vacuum attached and it's in the water, we're gonna take the white piece and just set it right on top of that skimmer basket, and you'll feel it really suck down. And now we are vacuuming. So now just slowly go across the bottom of your pool, and it will pick everything up. A general speed you kind of want to go is about this fast. If you go any faster than this and there's a bunch of sediment on the bottom, you'll kick it up into the water, and then the filter will have to get it, or it will just resettle back down. So you do have to move quite a bit slower than you would with, like, say, a normal vacuum in your house. But you just kind of go back and forth until everything on the bottom is picked up. All right, behind me is an auto cover. Most of our pools have an auto cover installed. Basically, it just rolls out. This one is a freeform because the pool is wavy. If you have a rectangular pool, you'll notice that the auto cover is actually recessed in the sides of the pool. They work the exact same, they just look a little bit different. Basically, the key switch on your wall with the little key with the open and the close controls the cover. There are magnets in it and a sensor, so you won't be able to close it or open it too much. It should automatically stop where it needs to stop. If you notice that when you keep holding it and it's not automatically stopping, basically the magnet might have slipped around in the little channel that it goes into. Just let us know and I can come out and fix it really fast. The main thing to know with your auto cover is that when it rains, you're gonna need to put a cover pump on it. This is one of our cover pumps. Yours might be gray, look a little bit different. Basically, you just hook them up to power, and then just a normal garden hose screws right into them. They do have basically a float inside of them, so you can plug them in and set them on the cover even before it's gonna rain, and it won't keep running the motor. It only runs when there's enough water for it to suck out. So if you see on the forecast there's a bunch of rain, you can just plug it in, hook up a hose, just throw it right in the middle of the auto cover, and it'll take care of the rain as it's starting to rain. If we don't use the pump on the auto cover when there's water in it, it won't be able to close all the way because the motor has to work a lot harder. So just when it's gonna rain, or if there is any water on your cover, make sure you put the pump on it just to be safe. So if we're trying to manual vacuum and we're noticing, man, it's just not really getting any suction, it's not really, doesn't seem to work, the thing doesn't want to stick down into the skimmer hole. Basically, one trick is this main, so you got your two valves coming in the skimmer and the main. If we either throttle this a little bit, or if we close it entirely, now all of the suction from the pump is going to be going just to the skimmer. So that's one step that we want to do at our pool equipment before we start vacuuming, or after we have it all hooked up. And then the other thing is, especially at night, you'll hear the pump isn't running at its max speed. So this is where that quick clean button comes in. So right here, you'll just click this quick clean, and then it'll pop up 60 minutes, press quick clean, and then you just press this right arrow to run it, and you'll hear the pump ramp up to its maximum speed. You can also keep clicking this quick clean, or actually you have to click it a bunch before you put it on a quick clean, and you can do this for up to 6 hours. So if you press it twice, it's going to run the quick clean for 2 hours. If you only press it once, it's only going to run it for 1 hour. And having that main valve closed and putting the pump on a quick clean is going to give you the most suction for the manual vacuum, and it's pretty much the only way that I recommend to do it. But yeah, it should be good.